If you're anything like me and you love the look of vintage poster design, stick around for the steps in this video as I walk you through how I created this BMW E-30 poster design in a vintage style. Let's jump in. Okay, so let's jump into Photoshop here. I've made the canvas 3840 by 4800 pixels. It's the same as always. And let me just drag in the image. This is an image from Unsplash by a photographer called Cash Mecania. I will link his work in the description below. So first step I'm going to do is come up to select and then sky, because I want to isolate just the foreground here without the sky in it. So now it's selected the sky, I'm going to use Command Shift and I to invert the selection, then come down here and mask it. And you see here it creates like a nice rough selection of the foreground without the sky involved. And now from this point I'm going to go up to the filter gallery, so select the image, make sure that you've got white and black selected as your foreground and background colors here, then come up to filter, filter gallery. Now you can see here the preset is saved from where I've done it before, but this creates a really nice kind of posterized effect here where it turns into more flat color, takes out a little bit of the detail, similar to the vintage style. So let me just fit in view here, and you can see just as a general effect. So if you come up on artistic and then cut out, copy these values here, 8, 6 and 2, it will change depending on what image you use, but I'm going to apply that. And now if I go back and forward, you can see the difference that is created here. Okay, my next step now is just to add the gradient map. So I'm going to select the image so that the gradient map is applied above it. Then come down to adjustments, gradient map. Now you want to select this gradient icon here rather than the mask. Otherwise, when you go to pick a color, it will always show as white. So I've got a whole bunch of gradient maps saved already. So I'm going to use this top left one, which is what I've used previously for this poster. You can see the colors here. So you start with sort of like a dark gray. I don't really go flat black with this. Kind of, you can see the gray range I've picked here. And then the top end is slightly tinted yellow to almost resemble old paper. So yeah, you can change the colors how you like it. I've just gone for the actual BMW colors. Okay, now what I want to do for the text is I want to add in a grid system just so I can align it all, make sure that the columns are set up. So if I come up to view, on guides, and then new guide layout, I'm going to use 3 columns here, as you can see already, with a margin of 200 pixels. This is useful for any piece of design work you do. It helps you to create that border around and keep all your work clearly laid out. So now when it comes to vintage posters, I often use the typeface New Order. So let me just get this up for you. So New Order bold, and the title is Motor. Now, simple trick for coloring your text, or just color selection in general. I'm just going to pick the darkest value in this image with the gradient map effect on it, and you can see already fits in much nicer. So let me come on to your character settings here, and I'm going to set the kerning to optical, and I'm going to set the tracking to -40. Now you can see here the letters are much closer together, and I'm going to fit this in the first 2 columns. I'm just going to add in the subtitle here. So if I'm formatting text, I may as well just duplicate it, change it, and then just resize here. So I'm going to go to about 50. Just going to come back to the original as a reference here. So I'm going to change this to about maybe 60 just to fit in that final column. There we go. Now I'm going to add in the individual column text. You can see here on the original poster, I've got these 3 columns and they're all justified left and right. So let me just grab the text out of here. Let's go drag that up. Now, if you're creating multiple columns, just create one, format it, use Command J to duplicate it, and then drag that across and paste your new text in. Just saves you a lot of time of just reformatting it again. And then I'm just going to repeat that same step into the 3rd column, where I'm just going to copy and paste this original text in. Okay, there we go, and that is the primary text made. Okay, now I'm just going to shift the image and the text down so that we have more space on the top, and it sort of sorts out the balance so that there's this kind of midway line across the piece. You can see like halfway down, that's the kind of focal line. Now we've shifted that, I'm going to add in the timeless masterpiece text at the top here and justify that right. And now a general rule for when you're formatting text sizes, if you divide your number by 1.618, which is the golden ratio, helps you to format text between headings and subheadings. And you see here the sizing now fits well in place. Then just turn the leading down. Okay, now I'm going to just add in a line here to separate the body text and the title. Set the fill and the stroke as that same dark grey colour. Keep it at this width. This width is about right. And there we go. You can see it's coming together already really nicely. Now you can see here on the original, I've got these top, small pieces of text at the top. We've got the motor magazine and my name here. So I'm just going to bring them in. So again, just going to use text boxes simply. justify this left, and I'm going to use that same golden ratio to set the text size for this. There you go. Now once I've formatted one, same trick again, Command J, duplicate, bring it across. And now you can see here, if you want to use the align tools, that they're grayed out. The way to prevent this is you go on the ellipses here, select align to, and put it on canvas. And now you can use them to align them to the center of the canvas so it's perfectly in the middle. Now let me just change this to Motor Magazine and drag these into the margin lines. Okay, it's coming along nicely now. So I'm just going to bring in the BMW logo from my original piece. This is a very simple edit. You can just find one online, and you can see that the color of it, the color of the outer ring, isn't perfectly black. All I've done is used a magic wand, and I've selected the dark area. So you can see where I've missed this bit here, where this is solid black. So let me just show you. Just highlight these areas, use the eyedropper tool on the same color as the text, fill it in, Command backspace. Now it's formatted well for the color of the rest of the page. I'm going to bring this down a bit. Just got one last bit of text to add. So I want it to be, you can see in the original, it's the same kind of size as the subtitle here. So I'm just going to duplicate the BMW E-30 text here, bring it down, center align it. I use the same eyedropping technique with the background, and you can see here it's now really nice kind of inversed colors. Just going to center align that. And there we go. Yeah, that is all of the text complete. So let's move on to the texturing and all of the effects. Okay, so now looking at the original, what I've tried to do here is you can see very faint text outlines. Now, I've tried to make this resemble almost a classic newspaper where, because the pages are so thin, you can see the text on the other side. So it's a very simple effect, but I feel like once you put it in, it's really nice and subtle, and it really does kind of resemble it quite well. So what I'm going to do is come down to the layers, and every text layer and shape, so you see like the line here and the BMW logo, any asset on this that isn't the image, I'm just going to select them all, just use shift and click, and now I'm going to group them. I'm going to label this assets, duplicate it, Command J, and hide the original. So make this into a smart object, right click and click smart object, and I'm going to go on edit, transform, and flip horizontal. And then what I'm going to do is just drag it down. So I kind of want it misaligned. So now I've dragged it down, just bring in the original assets, and you want to select the layer mode on this, put it on pin light, and then I believe I went for 5%. And you can see very subtly, you know, these text outlines here, the text carries on below the paragraphs, and obviously because it's flipped, it looks as if it is on the page behind. Now, just because it can be quite harsh, even though it's really quite light, you can still see it though, even on 5%. So I'm going to do filter and add a Gaussian blur here, just to soften the edges on that. And yeah, maybe come up to 3 pixels, because I still want to be able to see it. And there we go, nice. And you can see just the outer edges have been blurred a bit, similar to how it would look. Okay, back to the original here. Let's move on to the final steps, which is just sorting out the texture. Now I've got 4 texture layers on this. I don't necessarily think I need to have used 4 texture layers, but I was just layering on each one individually and seeing what looked the best. So let me do these one at a time just to show you. So I've got a paper texture first, which is part of Andrei Azizov's texture pack. I've been using it for a while now. It's really, really good. So I'd definitely recommend that. I'll link it in the description. But if I put this on full opacity, you can see it's just really nice, kind of distressed, a little bit stained, dirty paper. Really works well for vintage posters, anything stylized or textured. So let me go and multiply here, and immediately it kind of gives that yellow look, like faded paper, almost like tea stained. I'm going to half the opacity, put it on 50. Okay, next one is from the same pack. It's a photocopy texture. Just center align that, put it on normal, and you can see what the texture looks like without any effects on it. So let's select this layer mode, put it onto screen, and put it down to 50%. Might even go a little bit higher, because I like you can see the kind of pink lines coming across. Really offers a bit of depth. So I'm going to keep it on 60 there. And then the last 2 textures are both from Black Market. Again, really good source for textures. I'd recommend their copy scan pack. I'll link that in the description as well. I'm just going to center align these once I've copied them in. I'll show you them individually. Just a nice copy scan. Horizontal lines. I use this in so much of my work. I definitely recommend it. Screen, 20%. Now this is just such a similar one. I think it's just a bit darker to cover all of the colors of the page. Again, screen, 20%. I might do a little bit higher than that, do 40. And yeah, you can see with those textures on, it's really coming together. Now there's just one last text effect I want to add. So for the moment, I'm just going to group those textures and hide them. So with the original assets folder, so we've got this one that's the flipped one, which is the outline. With this original assets folder, I'm going to duplicate that, convert this to a smart object, and then hide the original. I just do that so that I have a spare in case I make an edit that I can't reverse and I want to go back to what this was. So now I've got this smart object. I'm going to go on filter, stylize, and diffuse. And just by doing this once, you can see it roughens all the edges of all of the text. So it gives that really nice grunge look, like it's printed on the paper. And yeah, that is it for text effects. Now I add the texture back on, and that is the final piece. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching till the very end. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that I could be helpful in one way or another. Whether it's going to be processes or tips and tricks and tutorials, stick around to see some more content from me very soon. See ya.